their reaction is, oh, you come from Italy and you move to Vancouver from Italy, you're crazy or something like that. I don't think I'm crazy. I saw it as the start of something new.
What bridges did you have to burn?
Everything. Everything.
Welcome to the Canadian Dream Podcast. Today, here in our studio in Vancouver, we have a guest who came from Milan, Italy, about 11 years ago, and he has been living in Vancouver since then. He is married to a lovely woman and has a child who is just 6 years old. He's going to tell us a little bit more about his journey and about his family and about his work. I have the pleasure to introduce you to Massimo Bellini.
Thank you very much.
What a name, Massimo.
Very Italian.
Very, very Italian and very powerful. My son's name is Max.
Yeah, shorter version of the name.
Massimo.
Yes, correct.
Why did you decide to come to Canada 11 years ago?
It was not really planned. It was not one of those decisions that you sit down on a table and you plan things. But both me and my wife, we probably needed a change. We were at a point of our life where we needed something to be done differently. And we looked at different options, different countries in Europe. Of course, being in Europe, it's easier, it's closer to the family, it's closer to home. That summer in 2011, we were invited to Vancouver by some of my wife's family friends. And we saw the city, and an opportunity came up to come here and study and do my MBA. And we didn't think so much about it. And in 6 months, we had the visa and we moved here.
And what were you doing in Italy until that day?
I was a lawyer. I was working with corporate and commercial law mostly, but I was also working as a consultant for several businesses in sport, in fashion, in architecture, interior design, all the industries that are based out of Milan. But it was just the right time to move, and so we got an opportunity and we took it.
What was your wife doing in Italy?
She's a fashion designer. She was working on her business, which was a children clothing line. We decided to put it on hold because she felt that she needed a change at the personal level, with the idea to move to Canada and then restart her business here. Of course, you plan something and things go in a very different way.
That's why it's better not to plan.
Exactly. We've been here now 11 years. We got the citizenship a couple of years ago during COVID. And we're happy. And I think now it's definitely home here in Vancouver.
She was a fashion designer living in Milan. Isn't it one of the 2 or 3 centers of fashion in the world?
Yeah.
Yeah. So what were you looking for, or what was her family living in Vancouver promising you guys that sounded so tempting?
I really don't know. I've been thinking about it for a while. Their reaction is, oh, you come from Italy and you move to Vancouver from Italy, you're crazy or something like that. I don't think I'm crazy. We just needed something to change in our lives. You do something for many years. You like something, you like doing something, and then you realize you don't like it so much. And the passion for what you're doing, where you are, maybe a food, maybe you always like, ice cream, chocolate ice cream forever. And then at a certain point, you don't like chocolate ice cream anymore and you want vanilla ice cream. And when we came here, we didn't have any specific promise by anyone. It was just an opportunity. It was far. And we thought, if we really need to change, let's change for real and go to the other side of the world.
I find it funny, Massimo, that you are not moving your hands.
I could,
you're
but
half Italian. You're definitely not full Italian anymore.
if you want, I can try, but I have to force myself, to move my hands, like in the movies. But, yeah.
So let's start now talking about your journey here from the moment you arrived in Canada. Tell me what you had to give up on before coming to Canada. What did you have to sell? Did you have to quit your job? What bridges did you have to burn?
Everything. You sell your car, you get rid of the place that you have. We were renting, so it was a sort of, relatively speaking, easy process, that part. But we had furniture, we had things. We had to decide what to bring, what not to bring. A lot of things are probably still in my mom's storage. but it's, you select a few things and you go.
How old were both of you?
I was almost 40.
What was the most challenging part? Was it that you had to look for another job or to start a new career here? Or was it that you had to go and to sit down on a chair and be in the university for 2 more years?
No, that was the easy part. Also because I realized that when I was studying that my experience helped me a lot. Because when I came here, I had already like around 15 years of working experience. And many courses that I took, it was a solidification of something that I already knew.
And how did you manage your time? You and your wife, who did what? Because you had to spend a lot of time in the classroom, or was it online back then?
No, in class.
So you had to go to campus. And who had to make money in the house? Was it on you or on your wife?
Mostly on her. And she was, of course, very supportive of that. Needless to say, she helped a lot. We had some savings that we brought from Europe, of course.
So she was in charge of spending that?
Yes. And I also did small things, like small part-time jobs. Because, of course, arriving as a student, I was not allowed to have a full-time job because of the regulations. But I began working as a ski instructor during the winter, which was important to meet people, but also, to make those little money to pay the bills. My goal in that period was to pay the bills and survive those 2 years, and looking forward, to a brighter future.
During your MBA course, what was the most valuable lesson that you took from that experience?
That I'm in a different country and that I have to learn to live in a different place, surrounded by people who think in a different way, which is the Canadian culture, essentially. Every place in the world has its own culture, and the most difficult thing was keeping in the back of my head my Italian background, but also be open to a new way of thinking, a new way of operating, a new way of behavior, new way of driving. For example, the driving in Vancouver is very different from the driving in Italy. Nobody was waiting for me, so it's me that I arrive here. I have to adapt to a new place. And that was something that during my MBA, the instructors kept telling us, try to understand this, try to figure out how local people are behaving and working and thinking, because these are the people you will be dealing with in your future. And that was the challenging part.
Can you give me 1 or 2 practical examples of these differences that you noticed?
I was looking at internships by the end of my MBA, and the professor set up a call with someone at 9 a.m. in the morning. And by Italian culture, you don't call that person exactly at 9. You call around 9. So I remember I was waiting for that call, to make the call, and I waited like 3-4 extra minutes. So I called, I don't remember what time it was exactly, but it was like 9:04, 9:05, and the person didn't pick up the phone. So I called again. And when she picked up the phone, she said, "Oh, you're late, it's 9:06 or 9:07, whatever it was." And of course, the outcome of that phone call was very negative.
Yeah. You didn't get that internship.
Not even close. But the reason was that nobody told me call exactly at 9. While here in Canada or in Vancouver, it's if you have a call at 9, it is at 9. At 9 o'clock, the phone is ringing.
Yeah.
And this is a small thing. It's a small adjustment. It's a big lesson that I learned that day. I still remember it very, very clearly. And that is an example of a cultural shift from what it was to what it is.
So give me another example of cultural difference between Canadian and European culture at the workplace.
I think Canadian is more a strict approach. There is a bigger attention to the person itself. So we're talking about sometimes, the mental health or the personal respect, those kind of things. You cannot make jokes And Italians are famous for making some jokes that may be misinterpreted. But here we have to be very, very careful. Good or bad, I think it's good. Sometimes I have the feeling that you should be able to have an informal relationships at work. Of course, always being fully respectful of the people. But here it's very easy to be misinterpreted. And I think that was one of the biggest adjustments I had to make. But it was relatively easy because I know it. And I always keep this very clear in my head. So when I work with new people and, you meet new people, you always have to be very professional, more professional, and there is less room to be informal.
To be funny, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I used to be very funny. Well, I thought I was. I used to make lots of jokes, especially filming and taking photos at events, for example. And I realized that people don't think that being funny is a good thing at the workplace when they first
takes time.
meet you.
It takes time, and you have to know the people before getting out of the professional comfort zone.
Yeah.
That's what it is. It's the culture and the city where we live in, so we have to accept it.
How was it for your wife to adjust to Canadian culture?
She says that Canada and, or better, Vancouver and Sweden, they're not very far as approach to life. In Seattle, there is a huge Swedish community. And so, of course, it also translates to Vancouver. The rules work, the city works.
So what is it about the driving here in Vancouver?
It's slow.
Yeah.
And it's too much following the rules. And I can add something on that that I didn't share earlier. I have a Vespa.
Which is a small motorcycle.
Exactly. And, it's pretty popular and everyone likes it. But when I drive it, people look at me and I see that many drivers in the cars are sort of scared because they don't know how I'm gonna behave. I'm paying a lot of attention to them, but they look like scared because they're not used to have me around. And so it's a little bit tricky.
How was the transition from being a student to owning your own business?
I initially worked for a couple of companies here in Vancouver, and it was a learning process. But every time you change your job or you start something new, there is always a period of adjustment. And it was just a little bit difficult to find a job because I didn't have the Canadian experience. And not having the Canadian experience, it's something that here in Canada people pay attention to. I think they want to know that you're ready to be inserted in a company, surrounded by people who think in a Canadian way. And even now, I know that, when you start, if you apply for a new job or the bigger companies, it's a process that can take up to 3 months. And it can be exhausting for the person, for everyone, because, you apply for a job and you apply with the hope of getting something. And when they first reach out to you the first time, even if it's just a screening interview, you have the feeling, I'm in. And you're ready to go. And again, you need to adjust to their pace. If they have certain steps to follow and the whole process is going to take 2 or 3 months, it's going to take 2-3 months. And we cannot skip the steps and you cannot make it faster. And just have to adapt to that.
What tips would you give to someone who does not have much experience looking for jobs in Canada?
To be open to whatever happens. You have 3 or 4 ideas, like dream jobs. You will probably not get that dream job right away, but you have to be open to get something around it that will also make you better prepared for your dream job. And then my suggestion is apply to many jobs, even if you don't like them. because you will practice during the interview. They will ask you things that you are not ready for. But when you get closer to the dream job, you will be ready, because if you already answered to 50 questions, some of them will be recycled by the person that you are targeting.
Right, right. And what is the biggest mistake that someone should avoid when they're looking for jobs?
Being arrogant and thinking that that company is waiting for you. Nobody's waiting for you. Nobody was waiting for me. Nobody's waiting for you. And Canada keeps going forward. The companies keep going forward. And they did it, and they built what they built without me or you.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to be cocky or arrogant and say, "Oh, I'm your guy." We have to be humble. We have to be, on a very low key and very open-minded and curious in order to know about that. And that's how you can get in and be successful.
And show them in a smoother way how you can help them
Exactly.
achieve their goals, right?
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
But you have to be curious, and you don't have to think, "Oh, I come from Italy, I come from Germany, I come from wherever I come from, so they owe me something."
Mm-hmm.
Nobody owes you anything, because I was a lawyer in Italy, and Canada is different. So I was a business consultant in Italy, but here is different. So the arrogance that we may have thinking, "Oh, I come from Italy, everyone wants to go to Italy, and Italy is the dream place for dreamland for many people, so the doors will be open for me," that's not happening. And now, after many years, I would say that actually is the right thing. They should not open doors just because you come from one place or another.
Now you do work with a lot of business owners. Is that correct?
Yes.
From what you were explaining before, you help them become more efficient.
Yes.
Is there a better way to explain what you do?
It always comes from understanding where a business is going, understanding the person that are running the companies. Because you can look at the websites and look at the infos that are around, and you can get a lot of information about companies. But when you sit down with the person, and you have to understand what that person wants, what are the priorities, and what are the goals that specific person have. And from there, you can build and you can develop a strategy, you can develop a branding process, you can develop a lot of things, but you need to read the people and understand them on the personal level.
And who are your most common clients?
I work with big companies, I work with startups, I worked in the past with private startups that ended up being publicly traded. And I worked with a company that was already public when I joined, but it was very small, and we brought it to a bigger level.
And having had this experience in the workplace in Italy and now in Canada for almost a decade, what are the differences that should not go unnoticed for anybody who's thinking about coming to Canada and starting a business here, or who want to expand and grow their business, expanding it to Canada?
I had a conversation not too long ago with the CFO of a company, and he was making a comparison between Canada and California. I know you're asking me about Europe, but I'm getting there.
Yeah.
And he said, in California, they let you do everything, and then the government built the rules around it, which explains why, for example, in California, in the Silicon Valley, you have all these tech companies that come out of nowhere, that they build new industries, new sectors, and then you have the government that arrives and tries to put, the guardrail around them. In Canada, it's the opposite. It is the government is giving you the guardrails right away, and then you have to stay behind. You have to stay in line, and you have to follow the guidelines of the government. In Europe, it's different because you have to decide where in Europe. Because if you go to Northern Europe, like Germany or Scandinavia, it's more similar to Canada. While Central and Southern Europe, like Italy, it's closer to the US approach. I don't know if it makes sense, the comparison I'm making, but essentially you come up with something, and in Italy, again, good or bad, you can, you normally do things, and then you say, yeah, whatever, and then when someone calls me because I did something wrong or something illegal, we will sit down and we will find a solution.
Scusa.
Exactly. You get, I didn't know, I was not sure, I was not aware of that, and you find a solution, you keep going. And
But here you can't even get started without.
Exactly. And I think a good example can be starting from an industry that's relatively new is the cannabis legalization. In the US, you have all these rules and all these states that are making it legal. Somewhere it's legal, somewhere it's illegal, somewhere you don't know if it's legal or illegal, but you have essentially this sort of freedom to do things till the government or the state arrives and tells you can do this, you cannot do that. When cannabis became legal in Canada, the government said from that specific day, cannabis is going to be legal. In order to work in that industry, you will need to do this, that, and they gave you a checklist that was very long with a lot of boxes to check. If you check all the boxes, then you can start working in that industry, which is, as I said, the approach is completely opposite of what it is in other countries.
And it sounds like it's more difficult for businesses to thrive in Canada.
I don't think so, because it's a matter of knowing the rules and working with the system. In Italy, we always say you have to work around the system. I think you can learn to work with the system. So, for example, I was involved in a cannabis company, and it's a matter of building the relationship with the people. Again, the government, it's big, great organization, but there are some people there. There is someone, if you call the government, there is someone, a person picking up the phone. And this someone, you can be lucky or not lucky because you cannot pick that person or choose whoever you want, but that person is following the rules, and the rules are the same for everyone. So if you build a nice relationship with these people, and if you ask them to explain you exactly what they want, then it becomes easy. I can give you another example. When I arrived in Canada, everyone told me to hire a consultant for immigration. And I did not. I did all the immigration process for me and my wife all myself. I went on the website, I downloaded the checklist, and I went through it. Very simply, they were asking me 10 things. I provided the 10 things, and everything worked smoothly. You know the rules. You have to follow them. And if you don't, I found that in Canada, it was easy to find someone to help you and explain the rules. And I also think that it's what I began to not like about being in Italy. As I said, working as a lawyer, you go to the court, you have to deal with a lot of things, so not only the judges, but all the people, all the staff and the people working there. And every day the rule was different. Oh, you have to do this week, and then the following week, the previous person goes on, on sick day or sick week or whatever. There's someone else. Everything changes. The process changes. While I'd rather be in a place where, it's like I call the government for the immigration, for example, I don't know who I'm speaking to, but everyone is giving me the same guidelines and everyone is following the same playbook. It's much easier.
So I see you put a lot of value in relationships. You have mentioned it a few times. How important is it for anybody who wants to thrive in Canada to have a good network?
Well, it is very important, I would say, everywhere in the world. But again, it's very different. I found it very different between here and Europe.
How so?
I cannot speak for all Canada. I would say I would focus on Vancouver. I think there are less social events. There are events that are dedicated to networking, which I personally hate, because you have a bunch of people that jump in front of you and say, oh, my name is Mr. X, I do this, what do you do? And you have to introduce yourself or absorb information without a personal connection. While in Italy, we used to go out to social events. It can be, aperitivo, having a drink, or you go to, other type of events. You interact with people, and then if you like those kind of people, then you can actually start, a different conversation. But it comes from a personal relationship. Here, it's more, I would say, it's more in those events. At least, it's more automatic. It's more methodical, but it's like a job. If I go out for a drink, I'm going out for a drink. I'm open to meet people, but I don't want to meet like 10 people that give me 10 business cards and tell me 10 different things without real interest. And so it's a matter of, being open to know the person. Sometimes I think Vancouver can be a little dry on that because I found out that a lot of people may be open to the first conversation, but they do it sometimes with a goal. If you're interested, I can keep talking to you. If you're not interested business-wise, let's cut the conversation and I'm not talking to you anymore, which I think it's bad because you never know who you're sitting in front of.
What tips would you give to, say, newcomers who are looking for places to network in Vancouver or anywhere in Canada?
Follow your passion and go to places where you have you can share a passion with the people. I do not spend a lot of time with Italian people, but I teach ski, and so I spend time with people who ski with me, with other ski instructors, because at least we have a passion to talk about, and from that conversation you can establish a relationship, and from there you can actually switch into other topics.
Right now, so 2023, what opportunities do we have in Canada that we should not miss out on?
Vancouver is a big hub for technology, and I personally think there are a lot of opportunities also in retail, because I was reading some few months ago that, for example, many clothing brands, I don't know, I don't remember exactly. I was not ready. You didn't tell me, so I'm not ready for this. But I remember that, out of the top 10 brands in North America, like 6 or 7 are Canadian or something like that. Having those big companies in Vancouver, we have at least 3 major companies like Lululemon, like Arc'teryx, like Aritzia. They drive a lot of talent to the city.
Right.
In terms of tech, all the tech companies, for another industry is the movie industry. All these companies attract and bring people to Canada. When people come to Vancouver, they see the nature, they see the lifestyle, and they don't want to leave. So from those big companies that bring talented people here, there will be many startups that will grow. Think about Portland 30, 40 years ago. Nike was there because it was born there. And then suddenly Adidas, coming from Europe, put their headquarters for North America in Portland. And then you have Columbia. And then you have other companies that were born in the same city. Why? Because people working and brought into those places from the big companies, if the place is a good place, they're not leaving. They want to stay there. You enjoy the lifestyle. Think about someone coming, I'm just making up an example, from the Midwest in the US. Gets a big job at Lululemon. Comes to Vancouver, stays here 3 years or 4 years. You enjoy the lifestyle, the nature. And I'm not going into the politics side and the social problems that they have in the US. How can you leave and go back to the Midwest? How can you go back to places that don't offer you the access to skiing, to the ocean, to all these summer activities that we have, the winter activities? And maybe those people that moved here for a job, maybe they have a family, they have kids that are also enjoying the good things that we have here. It's hard for them to leave.
And what values would you like to teach to your daughter? Or are you already teaching to your daughters?
Being nice, being respectful, being ready for whatever happens to her in her life and being open to the new situations. That's the most important thing. The surprising thing is that even if she's 6, she knows a lot because she's breathing it already. And she tells me where to put my garbage. She tells me this is not recycled, this needs to go in the compost, and this needs to go here and there. So I think the kids here are learning a lot, and they're much more focused than we were when we were kids. And I think she'd be ready because she's growing in a different, with a different generation. The kids that she's surrounded by, they're all kids looking at those things that we didn't care at all. I hope it doesn't happen only in Vancouver. It's a broader message, but she knows how to behave with other people. A big factor is that she's growing up in Vancouver. Vancouver is, by definition, a multiracial city. And so I think a lot of the problems that we adults face on that side, she will not face it because she has friends from Asian heritage. Some are, African American. It doesn't matter. For them, it doesn't matter. It matters more for us. But I see that she's growing in an environment that's much more different than we were. And, she's teaching me. So I'm sure your kid will teach you in the future as well. So for people coming to Canada or for people taking those kind of decisions, there are 2 groups of people, in my opinion. Let's say behind 25 years old or older than 25 years old. Why 25? Because at 25, you probably have worked a little bit and you have work experience, or you don't. If you don't have work experience, it's very good because you can learn a lot and you're still virgin if you want to this world, and you can learn and absorb and grow and do a lot of things. If you're older than 25, and as I mentioned, when I arrived here, I was almost 40, the problem is that you are losing or giving up a few years of your past experience. In my personal case, I think I probably lost 7-8 years of experience. So even if I was 40, I was like someone who is Canadian 30 years old in terms of experience. So you lose that. But when you start and you get into the environment of business and working, then you can grow much faster than at least Europe. Because opportunities are here, opportunities are available, and you can, if you know how to work and you're good, you have more opportunities to grow faster.
So if you're 25 or younger, it's probably better. If you're 25 or older, keep in mind that you're going to have to, it's pretty much going back to the beginning of the line, but you're going to be able to catch up faster.
Yes.
And what's the second thing you wanted to say?
Well, the second thing is if you're on the fence, thinking about it, you're already halfway out of the place where you are. So you better go. You better go on, exactly. Because I realized that when I visited Vancouver in 2011, as I said, we were invited here. I was not planning to come here, but we were already planning to leave Italy. And so we were mentally almost out of Italy. We were not physically, but we were, with our mindset was already gone.
Yeah.
And then when Vancouver happened, it was okay. I mean, it was just a matter of where to go. And that was an easy decision. Let's go to Vancouver instead of somewhere else.
It sounds like the end of a relationship. When you
it is.
You want to break up, you just need one reason.
There is no reason why. But we change, and you have a relationship. You have this girl, you like her, you love her, she's the dream of your life. And then at a certain point, things change. Why? It's there is no specific reason. As I said, you just grow, you realize that your place, what you're doing, the people that surround you. Of course, I miss a lot. I miss my family in Italy. I miss some friends. I miss a lot of situations there. but I don't miss it. You know what I'm saying? I don't really miss. Otherwise, I would not be here. I would be there.
So you mean you have good memories of those situations,
Exactly.
things, but you don't really want to go back.
If you are on the fence and you're thinking about something, or you have a good specific reason to keep you in the place where you are, or it means that you're mentally already checked out and you're ready to go.
Yeah. You would rather regret something you did than something you didn't do.
Exactly. Also because when you do something new, you don't know, but new opportunities may come up. But if you stay always in the same situation, which is a bad situation because you're not happy, you're not satisfied, you're not achieving what you want to achieve, you need to change something. Otherwise, you should stop complaining. It's like, those people that complain after the elections, but you didn't vote. You vote, you don't like the outcome, and then you do something that maybe, you may change something. But if you don't vote, you cannot complain because you didn't do your part. And last thing, I would also say, if you're on the fence, thinking whether changing or not, my suggestion is to go, but also, be sure to analyze everything you have. Because when you're out, it's very difficult to go back. So, with my experience, it worked. I know what I left there, which was a lot, but it was nothing so big that, to keep me there. Always be ready and, make your evaluation properly and not just go crazy and say, oh, yeah, sure, I'm setting and I'm going to the other side of the world, because everything will be great.
Great. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure chatting with you.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, we have to catch up another time with our wives and kids. And thank you for listening to this episode on the Canadian Dream podcast. If you are watching this on YouTube, remember to like it, to share this episode with anybody that might also get some value from it. And please subscribe to our channel. It's going to help us a lot, especially now that we have just launched the podcast. Thank you so much, and I'll see you on the next episode.